Hi, this is your cult boyfriend. I'm here with Mia. Mia, how have you been?
I'm good. I'm really excited about this.
Oh no, we're gonna talk about Dawson's Creek, um, which is an amazing television show. And I don't even have an agenda. I don't even have a a plan for this conversation. Just what is it that you people have heard and seen me talk about Dawson's Creek for like a year now, hours worth of available content. What do you think of Dawson's Creek? I have no idea.
um, I think it's really like comforting for me. And it wasn't like that at first because I watched the show back in like 2016 and it was my first time watching it and I wasn't really like registering what I was watching. I was just in like a weird time in my life and it was after I had like foot surgery, so I had to like stay in bed. And I don't know if I was really like paying attention fully to the show, but I know that I liked it. So I didn't revisit it until like a couple years later. And that's when I really like got into it and was able to really understand it. Cause I think at first, especially, it was a lot of that like Dawson's Creek kind of speak where I didn't really like fully understand what they were talking about sometimes. So
Oh, for such like a for such a maligned series that like everyone thinks that the series is super simple and just a teen soap opera. Like they use such flowery language and talk about extremely uh, simple things in the most complicated ways. And yeah, I have to rewind scenes all the time as a 30-something-year-old man. And like really just get to the gist of what a 16-year-old Dawson Leary is trying to tell me. Um, do go on, do go on.
so once I like started to understand it, I got like really into it and that's when it started to become like its own thing and just really like funny too. And then I like kind of discovered there was a bunch of other people that like felt the same way. And that was
There
really
are.
exciting and that's how I found you too. And I also started listening to like podcasts because I was like really just like needing something to focus on, I guess, especially during quarantine. So I
Mhm.
rewatched the show and I was like following along with different podcasts, kind of just like as I would drive around and stuff or be doing things. And I just got so much more into it than I thought I would. And it's just something that's made me really happy.
It's one of my favorite television shows of all time, and there are quite a few fans out there. Not as many as you would think, or it's just that people are really willing to dedicate a lot of time or overanalyze, like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer. People are more than willing to like spend hours like deconstructing that show. But with Dawson's Creek, like created by Kevin Williamson, like in someone who's far more interesting than even a Joss Whedon. It just an unfair treatment from a lot of people. So it's cool. I feel like it's a kind of a recent thing, like within the last few years or two years or so. Um, People are taking another look at Dawson's Creek. I mean, it's the perfect time because Netflix just gave us that HD remaster of the show along with Paula Cole's "I Don't Want to Wait," a different version, but like it's a hell of a lot better than what it used to be. I don't know. Let's talk about some characters. Let's talk about everyone's favorite character. What do you think of Dawson?
um, I remember like not really minding him the first time around, but then like as I watch it more, I'm like, oh, I understand like why everyone like talks shit on him. But I think yeah, he does get better like over time, I guess, and more like tolerable.
He's always like he's a irritating character, but he's always engaging to me. Like I, it's really easy to get mad at Dawson, but I mean, I can't imagine this show without James Van Der Beek's Dawson Leary. a lot like my channel before it was when I started doing Dawson's Creek, I had like the more pretentious cinephile fans out there, like kind of scratching their heads about it, and I just find it so ironic because it's like the perfect show for like a pretentious, like sexually frustrated cinephile to watch because Dawson Leary is like an embarrassment, like humiliating them at every turn. I think it would really benefit from spending some time with Dawson. From the first episode where he's talking about how great Spielberg is and like why is there sex in movies? Spielberg doesn't need sex and his movies are amazing. He says. I can't. Dawson is he- he's always interesting. He's the least likable out of the four main ones, or five, if we could be nice to Jack. Like, he's the least likable out of all of them. Like, no contest, least likable. But like from my vantage point, or like from my lens where I analyze it, like I always think that the show is like it forms its best. It forms a philosophical statement through like Dawson's like sentimental one. So it's like a sentimental postmodernism, which is really cool and really neat. I mean, I think that Joey Potter is like probably the more engaged, but she's like the muse. She's Dawson's muse, right? So like
Mhm.
Dawson has he's like the author and he's like figuring out his vision, and then even though season six is terrible, like by the end of that, when Kevin Williamson comes back to, kill Jen and write the last two episodes, there is a completion of like Dawson making the show The Creek or whatever, where he and like it's crazy. It's so like sophisticated and like complicated. It's hard to like explain it, but Dawson does Dawson does provide a pretty decent antidote to nihilism, like through his love for Joey and through his friendship with Pacey and like through mourning over Jen. So like by the end of the series, yeah, I agree with you. Dawson becomes um better, not great, but better. I like him a lot. Uh,
He's not a
a
bad
lot more than
person, he's just annoying.
yeah, he's not a bad person, but you can like it's the argument of whether or not he's deliberately using the women and people in his life as if it were all like a movie or like I don't know if he was like deliberately trying to hurt Joey, hurt Jen, or like take Pacey for granted. I don't know if it was deliberate, but damn, it seemed manipulated. So I don't know. Like that's like but that's early Dawson. Late Dawson is like, man, I've been cucked out by my movie star girlfriend. I can't do anything right. It's different. He gets humbled. But he doesn't. When his dad dies and he like drops out of film school, he starts to lose that sentimentality, but then he gets it back by the end of the series, and you realize why that was so important in the first place. And Dawson realizes why it was so important too, but like with mature eyes. So that's what's so cool about Dawson, that like er, early on in the show he was super sentimental, but like in a naive way, in a way of like he's like a virgin and doesn't understand anything about women or life or friendship. But by the end of the series he does experience a lot, and he's able to hold on to sentimentality in a truthful way that doesn't seem contrived. So I don't know, did I just ramble? I do that often.
No, that's really true though.
Let's
And it's
go
funny
to
because like I don't remember seeing James Vanderbeek in anything besides like when I first watched Rules of Attraction, which is like the
yeah,
complete opposite of like
which he's great in. James Van Der Beek, man, you can say Dawson's Creek was a blessing and a curse because I think it really hurt his chances later. Because he's great in Rules of Attraction as like as that Bateman kind of sociopath. Really, he's great in that. Um, I never caught like Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment Whatever. I never watched it. Never caught it.
yeah.
Um, like Varsity Blues, I don't really remember. He was on like One Tree Hill for like an episode or two, right? Like he was around,
Um oh
I
yeah.
think. Right? I think so. Who
Yeah.
knows? Joey Potter. What are your thoughts on Joey Potter?
Well, I loved your video on her. I thought it was really sweet.
And that would be
Um,
the Dear Joey Potter one that
yeah.
that you see in the corner now, because I'm proud of that video and she just said it was sweet. So it's there now. You can click on it and see for yourself.
But I really like her, like, right from the beginning. Um, yeah, you can just tell that, like, she's a star from, like, the very first, like, scene with her.
And I'm so grateful to have like a feminine perspective on this, because like I can't help it. I have to view the show as the guy, right? And but I think in all honesty, the show's created from Joey's perspective. Like most of the people watching this show, tell me if I'm wrong, like I can't engage with it this way for some reason. I engage with it from like either like a Dawson or a Pacey perspective of situations. Maybe Jen sometimes because she just is like chaos. But like most people who watched the show were teenage girls, and I think like the POV of the show was Joey, right? Was not only having to choose between a multitude of boys, honestly, but mostly between Pacey and Dawson, and having to make these decisions in life. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but like Joey's not only the main character of the show, but she's probably the audience viewpoint, or like the like what people want to be the audience viewpoint. Do you think I'm wrong?
Um, no, I think that's true because I don't know, I had someone I brought up to someone once that, like, I liked the show, like, years ago, and they were like, "Oh, like, were you reading for, like, Dawson or Pacey?" And I feel like just, like, that question itself is, like, the whole show, really, or,
It
like, the
is.
most, like, memorable part of it, really, and it's because it has to do with her and what she
Yeah.
symbolizes, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that the most like relatable perspective would be having to choose between those two different kinds of people. And I think that her like I'm in the middle of wrapping up my analysis videos on like the season by season. I'm in season 6, and it clicked with me. Like I hate the Eddie guy, but it clicked with me. I'm like, oh, this is a mashup of Dawson and Pacey. Like that's what they're
Mhm.
going for. He's like blue collar, like rough. He'll punch somebody. Like works at a bar, but he's also like hyper intelligent, like a bibliophile, knows everything about books, and like kind of selfish and like acts weird, and it's just the two of them mashed together. But that's what's so brilliant about the show too, is that like in the reality of the show, obviously Joey ends up with Pacey, which is the best decision. Let's just be real. But in the world that might be just as meaningful, which is like Dawson's show, like Dawson's tribute to the people in his life, the Creek. I remember that the analogs for himself and Joey, those two end up together, and it's wild seeing like Pacey and Joey watch like an alternate version of their lives on television, and not only critiquing it but admiring it. And I mean that just blows my mind. Just saying that
I
sentence is
know.
so like, but I think that yeah, Joey is the anchor for the audience, because it deals with so many different kinds of things that were probably super problems that were more focused or more pronounced in the 90s too. I mean, you got to remember like I hate the deadbeat dad storyline. I hate all the parents in Dawson's Creek except for Dawson's. Like they're all boring. But
Yeah.
especially Joey's. But the whole deadbeat dad thing, like she's the poor girl by the creek, and like and
Yeah, they focus on that so much in season 1 too, it becomes like I don't know, it's like her mentioning her, like, mom is dead, like
yeah, yeah, just over and over, and like you realize that it is absolutely Joey's show, but we're seeing it through this like that this and then she is like a postmodern kind of girl next door, and we're seeing her through the lens of like of sentimentality, of tenderness, of nostalgia. So like it's like we're watching a show and it's like Dawson's understanding of who Joey was, but it is definitely a show that like Joey runs this show, always always has. But I think that everyone's favorite character, like in all honesty, not Dawson, but is probably Pacey. Pacey is a remarkable person. Um, well, what do you think though You mentioned, what do you think about the differences between Pacey and Dawson and like the way Joey interacts with both of them?
Um, when you asked me that, I thought of like I don't know, the iconic moment when they're like by the fire and she tells Pacey that like he makes her feel like alive, and that's pretty much what I think of. Um because yeah, like Dawson is someone that she's known like almost her whole life, and I don't know, after a while there's just, if it's not there in the beginning, that it's like you can't really like
Yeah,
grow from it in that way. So it just makes so much more sense the way that she interacts with Pacey and the way that she becomes more like herself and more funny too, which I wish we could like see more of, because she's actually really like funny, and I wish there was more of a chance for her to use her humor.
for real. I just saw that episode where she gets drunk at like Pacey and Jack's new place and just seems hell bent on like terrorizing every other member of the cast by bringing up like continuity errors or like
Yeah.
inconsistencies with their character by being like, did you know Jack was an art kid once? Like crazy, right? Or going up to like Jen's new boyfriend and being like, she killed a girl. Abby Morgan killed her with champagne. Like just bringing up all this shit that like doesn't make sense anymore. And yeah, no, Katie Holmes can be really really funny. Um, like worth mentioning that Katie Holmes was a like Kevin Williamson was like really like like swept away by Katie Holmes. Like she sent in her audition tape for this show like cuz her drama teacher in high school or something like made her do like a little videotape VHS recording and send it off to fucking I don't know who, but it went to the Dawson's Creek people. And yeah, they really figured out a way to make so many people connect with all four of these characters, but specifically with Joey. There's something special about each of the four main ones here that is just unreal. And Pacey and Dawson, I guess, like to get back to the point of it, the best season of Dawson's Creek is probably the best season of television ever, which is season 3 of Dawson's Creek, where Joey and Pacey like first fall in love with each other really, and they actually abandon like Dawson's narrative. It's the one season too where Dawson is truly like framed as a villainous kind of an antagonistic person near the end where he realizes that his perfect contrived little fantasy world, like the actors inside of it are disobeying the director's wishes and doing their own movie in a separate corner that he's not a part of. And I mean, they go away on a boat. They like go away into the sunset and leave Dawson and his creek behind, and that's incredible to me. So like, Pacey obviously offers like passion. He offers uh, everyone's witty on the show, but he offers a lot of wit as well, and something that's not fixed or something that is unexpected or there's just such a true chemistry between the two of them. And I've never mentioned in my videos that they were an item once, Katie Holmes and Joshua Jackson, right? Like before that season even happened.
Mhm.
Yes. So like there is a true chemistry there that like you can't really put your finger on, but it's an indescribable quality of seeing Joshua Jackson and Katie Holmes like next to each other. You can really feel the the emotion of it, I guess. But
Yeah, and it's nice how that doesn't really go away.
mhm.
Like it's just kind of always there.
It's always there. They try to sweep it under the rug in season 5 and not bring it up too much, and like make them like they try to separate those two as much as possible in season 5 so they can do their own thing in a corner. But you can't do it for too long. I think the audience really fell in love with the Joey and Pacey relationship, and I don't blame them because I do too. It's like it's freedom in an otherwise like really confined space. Like I Audrey Hepburn isn't supposed to end up with the clown. Like that's not supposed to happen, and yet it did, and it felt so right. Felt so good. how long this video's been going on for a long time, and
Hmm.
we haven't talked about Jen yet, and I feel like
Um,
that's a crime. We should be arrested and put into a cell somewhere. Jen. Jen is the character who, like, when I first watched the show when I was younger, um, I probably related to Jen the least. But the older that I get, the more I'm like, no, Jen is like always right. Jen is always doing like, and understand that like I relate to Jen so much more the older that I get. Um,
yeah, I think
Her
she's really like,
self-destructive beginning all the way up to like her everything about Jen is awesome. That's all. I don't know. Great.
yeah, I think she's like the voice of reason, really. And I just love her little like takes on everything.
Especially because I'll say somewhere in season 4 or season 3 or 4, like a switch goes off in like Michelle Williams's brain. So I know she didn't have like too great of a time on Dawson's Creek, so I think she decided, you know what, i'm gonna like I'm gonna try to do some like crazy stuff. I'm gonna try to do every line in like the most unique way possible and just see if I can really make these scenes that I think are boring interesting. And she does. Like near like season 5 and 6 might not be too good, but every scene with her in it is like really riveting to watch because as an actor, Michelle Williams is just taking a normal line and just turning it on its head with the delivery or just like dancing in a chair, like things that couldn't have been written to be as captivating as they ultimately were. That speaks to Michelle Williams's acting abilities, who she is clearly the most talented out of every one of the main cast. I think her career has also proved that as well. She hasn't just got lucky; she's also really, really good, and elevates Jen into such an interesting character, a vehicle of pathos, that it makes sense that when they have to end the show, that Kevin Williamson would choose her to kill because she always also feels expendable. Because as we've talked about Dawson, Joey, and Pacey, we can talk about those three and never have to bring up Jen,
Mhm.
honestly. Because Jen was like a, a platinum blonde MacGuffin for like a second. Like she was like an aside. She was a distraction for a moment. Like she can be so easily separated from them. And I guess that Kevin Williamson in Dawson's Creek in the last 2 episodes of the show takes that fact and punishes the show for it by removing her, by actually killing her. And I cry. I cry during that shit because oh my god, that shit about like I haven't done anything in my life right. I don't know if I'm going to die correctly either. That's not the line, but that's basically the meaning of it. Um, a character who we can't talk about without talking about Jen though is Jack. Jack is There are two great couples of Dawson's Creek, and one is Pacey and Joey, and the other is Jack and Jen, so far as I'm concerned. I love Jack and Jen. They're awesome. Talk about Jack. Talk more about Jen if you want. Talk about anything you want, because we've done.
It is it is really funny but because I watched like parts of your season 5 video and how you mentioned that like Jack probably has like BPD or something and he's the writers just don't really stick with one thing for him. And
Not at all.
yeah, it does get really confusing.
He starts off as a neurotic, like weird, like awkwardly intelligent art kid, and the very next season I think he's some lovesick footballer, and then he's like some frat boy, and now I don't even know what he is. He's like some weird caricature of early 2000s gayness. Like I don't know exactly who he is, but Kerr Smith as an actor, at least I think it might just be his actual personality or his interpretation of the character, but there's always Jack in there somewhere from Kerr Smith's delivery, and he is one of the most significant characters in television history for having um, probably the first gay kiss between two men on television in season 3. Um, but yeah, the writers really don't get Jack, but it doesn't matter because seeing those last 2 episodes of the show, even after all Jack's been through and like all the weird character changes he goes through every season, seeing him like cry over Jen's bed and then like take care of her child from then on, like adopt her kid.
I
He's
know.
nuts. And that's a total Jack thing to do, even though like we don't know who Jack really is. That's something Jack would do. Um,
Yeah, I enjoy him best when he's with a Jen or when he's just like being like goofy and like funny. I don't particularly like when he's like more like emotional and stuff because I just it's really hard to
I had a feeling you were
take
gonna
it.
bring up.
Yeah, it's
It's
really hard to like take it seriously. Um like especially I don't know if maybe he's just not like the best emotional actor, but there's like a thing where he does sometimes where he's supposed to cry and he just kind of like scrunches his face.
I mean, I don't know. I remember that part of season 5, I think, where like Dawson shows up to their beach house and he's like standing up on the raft or like the balcony over the pool and he's like, "Hey Dawson, check me out," and like almost kills himself. Yeah, yeah, I don't like. That's the thing. They forget that Jack's an alcoholic. Like within like 4 episodes, he's just healthy drinking. He's like,
Yeah.
I thought he was like a suicidal drunk. You just said that. You just told me. No, we can't hold it against Kerr Smith if like every script he gets is like a different person
Yeah.
entirely.
He's doing his best.
He doesn't even have a type as a gay person. Like there's no, like I don't know anything about him. Other than
I know that is really strange to me because like he goes from I don't know exactly. He goes from like Ethan to like what's his name? Like Toby
mhm, to
and
like the weird professor to some
yeah.
random other kid, and he's also like just slutting it up before that entire summer apparently because Jack is all of a sudden totally into it now. Um, but you know, maybe when Jack really lost it was when Andy left too.
I
Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, when his sister left the show, it might have. She was consistent as fuck through the whole through
Mhm.
her all 2.5 seasons. Like, I know who Andy is, and I miss Andy so much. Andy was super underrated. I actually like Andy a lot. Like I like Busy Phillips, but she's no replacement for like the chaos that could be an Andy meltdown. An Andy meltdown was awesome. It was ridiculous. I didn't know what was gonna happen. Andy was super cool. Andy was awesome. What do you think of Andy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too because I was thinking about how well, I'm also watching season 6 right now, but then the other day I wanted to go back and watch season 4, episode 1 and see what it looked like on the HD.
Yeah.
um, but so I got to see Andy again. And what's funny about that is that I don't know, it just like reminded me like how much I missed her and like
Yeah.
how much her like I don't know, I just feel like there's like an absence there in like the other seasons. And yeah, I think she is really underrated and so funny.
Yeah, and I thought they tried to compensate for that absence with an Audrey, with someone who could have the same kind of I don't know, emotional meltdowns. But there's something about Andy and like the acting was out of control for Andy. Um, I thought she and Pacey were a delightful couple too. Like I really dug that. I think Andy was awesome. A lot of cool parts with her, and yeah, yeah, the McPhees. Yeah, and like Jack is like really rich, right? Like he's wealthy as fuck. They forget that too all the time. I'm pretty sure he complains about money a lot. But then, like, when a Christmas episode happens, they're like, oh, he's in Europe with Andy and his family. What? Okay. Well, shit.
Yeah, and also they just completely forget that the mom like exists.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. I can't even. I can't even. All right. I think Well, I honestly don't feel like talking about Audrey too much. Busy Phillips is cool, but I think that that rotten luck of being in the two weakest seasons of the show, um, you know, she really didn't. She never worked from a Kevin Williamson script either. She's like the only one. Like Kevin was gone by that
Mm,
time, and only came back for the last two episodes. So she never actually said a word of Kevin Williamson dialogue. So I mean, God, I just watched an episode of Dawson's Creek that I always forget exists, where I think the writers in the show they just give up and they're like, let's just go to a No Doubt concert for 20 entire minutes. Like, let's quit the plot and just watch Gwen Stefani sing Spider Webs for 20 entire minutes with like awkward like reactions from Jen and like Jack going like this in a completely different place. Uh, yeah, okay. Those are weird seasons. Those are weird seasons.
I know it's like a whole different thing.
Oh
I
my
don't even
god.
know. It feels different like as you're watching it. Like it makes me feel different and I have to like remember that when I'm watching those seasons versus the other ones.
I have to do my super fan. It's my responsibility as a super fan here to say that the girl who would have been king of the entire show if she didn't get bored of North Carolina and asked to be killed off early, Abby Morgan. Let's talk about Abby Morgan for like at least a minute or two. Abby Morgan is honestly my favorite character on the show. I miss her with every passing moment. Um, Super fun, super cute, ridiculously funny and bitchy. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. And I did read that like Monica Keena was like, I don't want to be in North Carolina anymore. Kevin, kill me. Kill me off so I can go back to California. I don't want to be here. And they did. They had her drowned to death right after she says the words, I don't want to be boring or a cliche or something like that. And then she tumbles back and dies a boring cliche. And I'm like, God damn, that's so hard. But she had the best lines, the best my favorite episodes of the show, season 3 is my favorite season, but my favorite episode of the entire show I still think is her first episode, that Breakfast Club
Yeah.
redone episode of the first season, the detention, I think it's called, where we first meet Abby and like she just weaponizes every archetype in the room and pits them against each other, makes them all make out with each other, and then humiliates them.
It's so
Awesome shit.
great.
So cool. What do you think of Abby, the best character who should have stuck around?
I love her and I was definitely like friends with people like that too. And I
I
guess I was more of like the Jen in those situations where I would just like go along with the girl.
yeah.
And yeah.
Think about what we missed. That friendship for 6 seasons would have been amazing to see. But I think I was like Abby Morgan in high school. I was like I would get bored a lot and just talk a lot of shit.
Yeah,
I
just
was
for drama.
yeah, I was a bad teenager. I was like, yeah. But I was like I really related to Abby on like super deep levels of I thought that like everyone around me, like I hated where I was and everything around me. So that made me hate like most of the people because they must suck too, because everything around here sucks and being sweet is boring. And Abby is a prophet, and we should all listen to Abby, the postmodern prophet. It's heartbreaking. Like it's heartbreaking shit like when they kick her out of the sleepover or something and then Andy, it's a great Andy moment because Andy is the one who goes outside early in the morning and sees that Abby has been sitting
Oh
there in a
yeah.
chair all night because like she has problems with her mom or something, like, right? And she never went home and she's just out there crying and like that's when Andy's like, why do you have to be so mean? And she says, because being sweet is really boring. Like, get out of here. I hate you. Yeah, Andy's the one who's like awkwardly the most affected by her death. I mean, Jen is really affected by it, but the Andy and Abby friendship that happened near the end of Abby's life was fascinating to see. I didn't expect it. It was interesting. Because she's the one who sees Abby's ghost, I think, right? When she's like alone in the room and sees Abby in a
Oh,
mirror and turns around and she's not there.
I forgot about that.
Don't forget, Abby's ghost is haunting Cape Side to this day. That ghosts exist in Cape Side. Um, and they obviously tried to they realized that something was missing with Abby, which is
Mhm.
interesting because in season 3 we don't have an Abby or a replacement Drew Valentine, and it's the best season ever. But Drew Valentine was just a replacement. Who's another cool character? We can talk about Chad Michael Murray's abs for a second. I mean, those were cool characters. But I can't there are a lot of cool, each season had its own like bit characters. Abby would have become a star if she decided to stick around, I'm sure. But like most seasons have like just season long reoccurrings, then we never see them again, and it's nice spending time with them. Um, there's really just so many. What's your favorite season or episode of Dawson's Creek?
Um, well, definitely like season 3. Um, I think my favorite episode might be, I don't know. It might be the one where they go to like Dawson's aunt's house.
Oh, that's
Just
so good.
because, yeah, I like when they're in a different setting and when they're all together, like somewhere else. Um,
We that's a character we really forget about too. Along with what is it? Is it Pacey's cousin, friend, his friend?
oh, um, what the fuck is his name again?
I don't know. You know. See, you
Yeah.
brought him up once. I forget.
Uh, oh, Will Krudsky.
Yep. But that's such a great episode, even though that character is shoehorned in there for like a different show, I guess, that's like airing that you told me about, like that was gonna premiere around the same time. That character's shoehorned in there along with an aunt that we never see again, and it's so powerful. That's where we get the Daydream Believer, right? That's where we get that moment where Pacey's watching Dawson and Joey sing Daydream Believer together, and he leaves because he's just disgusted with how ideal it looks, with like how that looks right, and that Pacey is this troublemaker, ruining the ending of an already fixed play, or at least that's like his conundrum. That's a beautiful episode. That's an awesome episode from the best season. Um, it's just missing an Abby is all it's missing. Get Will out of here.
Yeah,
I
my
wish
favorite.
Abby was around for that little spectacle.
Yeah, me too.
I want
Um,
to know what Abby would have sung at karaoke.
my favorite, like, I guess, series of episodes is in season 3, and it starts from like the dancing lessons that they take together, and then like
Yeah.
till the end of the season. I just like love that whole. There's like nothing wrong with it. I don't know.
There's a massive amount of genius in that season, and from what I've read, that's the season where Williamson left. So like the most brilliant part of the whole show, like the creator, the guy I credit most of the stuff to, like wasn't involved too much. So like I'm just so impressed by like Gina Fator and all of the other writers who like took the gauntlet and gave us such an incredible season of television with season 3. Season 4 is good too, but it's hard to see it's good that it happens, but like it's hard to see the characters returning to the Dawson narrative, because we had that moment of liberation in season 3, and then season 4 happens, and like Pacey's caught up in all his insecurities, and Joey is remembering that like she has to have a future, and we go back to the Dawson's Creek narrative of this is Dawson and Joey's show again, which is it's not a criticism, like that's how that arc should have happened. um
Mhm.
I'm glad we got 2 more seasons, even if they're mostly not great. uh
Yeah, I like what you said in your season 5 video about how it's okay for shows to have like unnecessary like
yeah,
episodes and plot lines. Cause yeah, I don't know if I would have. I don't know. There's something about having like 2 more seasons that just feels like nice to have, even if they
right.
aren't the best.
Yeah, and I think it fits the show well because, like, after all, I think that Dawson's Creek is probably the best example of like postmodernism in popular art or media. And if the show's just one long, epic postmodern diatribe or dialogue, then there should be like existential inertia in the show, which is what like season 5 is and what season 6 mostly is.
Hmm.
But like I love the series finale so much. Like I don't think I don't know. I don't know if people actually like the way the show ended. I love it. It's wild. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy that it's able to wrap together so completely. And yeah, I actually like when a show has unnecessary parts. We're not gonna get shows like that with unnecessary parts. You have an unnecessary like couple of episodes, and you're done. You're gone. You can't
Hmm.
fuck around anymore. You can't just gaze at Chad Michael Murray for like 20 episodes. You can't do that in today's world. And
Yeah, what's funny is that when I first watched Dawson's Creek, like I was also watching One Tree Hill for the first time at the same time.
yeah,
So I think it was almost easier for me to watch One Tree Hill and like remember that because of like the time I was like in my life. Like I didn't feel like I could fully like I don't know, it was just like a lot easier to just kind of sit there and not have to think about like what it's saying.
yeah. Well, you and I are around the same age, and um, like we may have seen Dawson's Creek on television. We're close in age. We're not the
Mhm.
same age or whatever, but we may have seen Dawson's Creek on television. But we were like 4 to 7 years old when it like premiered,
Yeah.
right? Like One Tree Hill is really our Dawson's Creek, and that shit is crazy. That is a batshit crazy show. I'm gonna take it on when I'm done with Dawson's Creek. I'm gonna finally like actually take it on. But like it takes no time to go absolutely bonkers. Like it
Yeah.
goes out of this world. But I would love to hang out with Chad Michael Murray and Hillary Burton and Sophia Bush for a while. They're wonderfully charismatic people and beautiful people. I would love to watch it. But my God, there's like heart transplants, heart organs falling on the ground and like dogs stealing it. And
Yeah, I've been listening to their podcast and it's just gonna be so funny hearing them talk about like how as ridiculous like as it goes on because they're just at the beginning right now.
it already starts off with like a Randian like a teen show like where Chad Michael Murray like by episode 2 or 3 is like quoting Atlas Shrugged at the end of his like the inconsistency of character. Like I remember there's one episode of One Tree Hill where Chad Michael Murray like quotes no effects lyrics to Hillary Burton and then ends it by reciting Ayn Rand's like defense of selfishness. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is happening? Um, God. Yeah, I'll take on One Tree Hill, but like if Dawson's Creek sounds insane and melodramatic, it feels like a realist. Like it's nothing compared to where One Tree Hill goes within a
Yeah.
few episodes. It's all centered around like this weird Greek tragedy of like patriarchs, like brothers trying to like basically kill each other and fuck each other's wives too. It's like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, the whole thing with like the parents is another thing that's I think that's also what makes it so different from Creek because there's no interesting parents or
No, there's not the way I like it. I don't want to have to worry if like Dawson's dad is going to try to fuck Joey. I worry about that in One Tree Hill like all the time.
Yeah.
like, like that's not good. But yeah, I mean, this show was a springboard for a lot of people, including Chad Michael Murray. So that's really why we went on a One Tree Hill tangent. Like, it was a springboard for a lot of different people, um, to really like come into their own. But like the thing, there is a lasting appeal to Dawson's Creek, and I feel like there is a rediscovery of Dawson's Creek going on. Because it is iconic. Like I can talk to people like Zoomers, right? Or Zoomers or Boomers. They all know I Don't Want to Wait, and they all know what it's from. They
Mhm.
can't tell you much about it, but they know what it's from. Like it's that recognizable to people. It was that much of a cultural moment, like a reset. It was. I think people are rediscovering it because maybe things are coming full circle. Maybe we're back to where we really need to examine um, the way that we interact with like the more romantic components of our lives. I'm not sure, but I like it. What do you want to talk about? You talk about something.
um, I don't know. It's just been really nice to find other people who also like the show because I don't know anyone in my life who
Yeah,
watches it or yeah, I'm just not really yeah, like you were saying, we were like too young when it was on TV. So
yeah, just barely missed that window. I remember like I remember some girls in class maybe watched it, but it was like people forget it was controversial too. I remember like certain people not being allowed to watch it or
mhm.
something, um, all because of that damn Pacey um, sleeping with his teacher and like
I know.
making out with her in the pilot episode. Pacey, you can't contain yourself. But oh, that's another great thing about the tension. Oh, I'm just like super fanning out over here. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing off the walls. But in detention, where Joshua Jackson gets that great line where they're like talking about the Breakfast Club openly, and one of them goes like, "Man, all those people sucked, didn't they?" And then Joshua has to go, "Except for that Emilio Estevez, he was in those Mighty Ducks movies, and those are classics." And they all stare at him. Beautiful moment from Joshua Jackson, our little Mighty Duck superstar.
Hmm.
But yeah, uh, I do have the feeling that everyone in life is a Dawson, a Joey, a Pacey, or a Jen. That they are the four dominant personality types in the world. That's my theory. Uh, you're a Joey. I'm a Pacey leaning Dawson, probably. It's hard to even say that you're part Dawson. It's like so dehumanizing, really. But here at Joey leaning Jen, that's a good way to be. Um,
Yeah.
this is where I took the conversation. Okay. Um, um, it's just yeah, it's hard to find people who really like this show because well, people get not just like preconceptions or whatever, and I don't even think that like preconceptions are that bad. It's just this show is like so much more complicated than people give it credit for, and also even if it wasn't, there's electrifying performers in here. There's really just there's an amazing amount of tenderness and romance and love. Like even if I can remove the postmodern philosophy from it, there's just like there's a power here, and everyone should because it captured an entire generation for a reason, and it still has that power.
Yeah, it's way more complex than I thought it was. Like that's why I had to rewatch it a
Hmm.
couple
I'm gonna
times
have to
now.
rewatch it again because it's in HD all of a sudden. I haven't seen it in HD. I have to see Abby Morgan in HD, like
Uh,
publicly humiliating everyone with the Roswell guy. Like
yes.
that was amazing. Max, I think, was that guy. I don't remember. Oh, so many good.
Oh yeah,
Isn't
I was
Scott Foley
watching
in this for a minute?
uh,
Yeah.
um sorry, I was gonna say I was watching Buffy the other day and then the guy who plays Chris Wolf shows up and I was like, hey, it's Chris Wolf.
They were working for the same studio. They had to have known each other. I like watching the old like WB promos, and they're like, on Mondays, hang out at the creek. On Tuesdays, go to Sunnydale. It's like that was the time. That was the life. That was the moment. Um, but yeah, my God, I could talk about Dawson's Creek for a really long time, and I mean, I have clearly. I've proven that. There's evidence. Um, I'm so happy I found you, Mia. Most people think not just like random terminally online cinephiles that might be watching this, but like in my real life think that I'm doing it ironically. It's like No, I mean at a certain point, you gotta admit that it's not. It's just fucking beautiful television. It's beautiful art. Um, it's so much more complicated than anybody, absolutely anyone gives it credit for, and it's so weird. Like the weird double standards. Like I love Buffy. That's another one of my favorite shows, but we can like there can be hundreds, thousands of pages of feminist theory about Buffy the Vampire
Mm.
Slayer, and then like nothing about Dawson's Creek. And Dawson's Creek, I think, did so much, an equal amount of incredible things. Um, cinephiles in particular really need to watch it because it humiliates and punishes them, and they won't be the same when they're done hanging out with Dawson Leary. They won't be the same because they won't want to be that. They won't want it. They will leave that behind. I'm telling you. But I'm happy you one day typed in Dawson's Creek analysis into YouTube, and there was such a small amount of videos that you found mine. Got lucky and got to make a really cool friend. So that's awesome
Yeah.
to me. But I don't know. Any last words? This is just like a general conversation about the creek, I guess. The creek days of the
um, just what you were saying earlier about it, like being more complicated than we think, and I think that's why I take it like so much more like seriously now, because I feel like I understand it, and even if I don't fully understand the like speak that they do sometimes, um I think it's sort of helped me in a way. I don't know, just rewatching it and just thinking about like my own life and everything, and yeah, it just brings me this like sense of comfort, and it's helped to have something to like think about and kind of like dissect in my own way, and to have like you to talk about it with is really nice too.
that's beautiful. No, we should do that really quick. Yeah. Um, I don't even know where I'd be right now without like just starting up Dawson's Creek again, meeting people like you, and uh, because like the best criticism or the best analysis, yeah, the best ones are really just a look into like the analyzer or like the reviewer or the viewer watching it. Um, and Dawson's Creek is really like I've spent hours talking about it, not only with you, but like with the record button pushed on, pressed, I guess is the proper speak for it. But
Mhm.
it's really, it's a really sentimentally like confrontational show, where like through it, I've worked through certain parts of me, right? Like I've admitted that I was an Abby Morgan when I was like in high school. I'm working through like who I am now and who I like the idealized version of who I would like to be. It's a deeply emotional show because then you also think about the things that you want. You can't watch Dawson's Creek without thinking romantically. Like you can't watch it without thinking about like not only loneliness, but to bring it back to the beginning, but about comfort. Because there's something very comforting about the show, and if you can figure out what that comfort is, you can figure out like what you might want to find in a significant other or a friend or an enemy, in something that makes you feel valuable. I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
All right, we can cut it if you want.
um oh, I
This is
just
all
pressed
staying
stop
in.
recording.
Yeah, I hope you know this is all staying in, this entire part.